Happy Friday and welcome to MindShareTV, where we explore the forefront of educational technology. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci, and today we're honored to have Keith Krueger, CEO of Consortium for Schools Networking, CoSN, join us. We're proud media partners of the upcoming CoSN 2025 annual conference in Seattle. We'll delve into the current state of education and the impact of AI. Keith, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Great to be here, Robert.
Before we dive in to our discussion, I'd like to share a little bit about Keith Krueger, who is a legend in EdTech, 30 years as CEO of CoSN, a not-for-profit that serves as a voice for K-12 school system technology leaders in North America. CoSN's mission is to empower educational leaders to leverage technology to create engaging learning environments. Under Keith's leadership, CoSN has become a pivotal organization in educational technology landscape. In 2016, Technology and Learning recognized him as one of the Big 10 most influential people in education. And the Center of Digital Education identified Keith as a top 30 technologist, transformer, and trailblazer. He has served on various boards, including the Friday Institute at North Carolina State and the Public Policy Advisory Council for the American Library Association. Keith Krueger, thank you again for joining me. Let's dive in. CoSN Annual Conference 2025, just around the corner, scheduled March 31st, April 2nd at the Hyatt Regency in Seattle, a city I've never been to. It has an NHL franchise. I'm excited to be there. I've traveled all over, but somehow missed that town. This year's theme, human leadership in a world of AI. I love the theme. We talk about human connection as much as we talk about AI. Can you share what inspired this theme and what attendees might anticipate?
Yeah. Well, we're first of all, we tried to find a location that was close to the Canadian border so that we could entice some of our friends from.
And I know that was very intentional because we talked about that.
Exactly. And you're right that we are thinking about what does leadership mean in an AI-driven world, and I think also just the way we think about AI. Is it to replace educators, teachers, administrators, or is there a better way to think about how we augment it? And I think so we're going to be exploring that. And then just broader than AI, what exactly does it mean to be a leader in K-12 when so many routine things that people do could be replaced? So it'll be a great, and there you can see where Ken Shelton is starting our opening keynote. And
he's amazing. I have his book. He's incredible.
And Richard Collada and researcher Victor Lee from Stanford and others will be presenting. So we got a great day.
Impressive lineup.
Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, it isn't just about AI. There's, I don't know about in every Canadian school district, but we're seeing a lot of challenges around things like cyber attacks and keeping student data private.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion around that, and we know about the breach that happened globally with an EdTech company, and it's certainly a reminder for EdTechs to really do their homework and be compliant. And who would alignment with CoSN and EdTech One? Is it the not-for-profit?
They are a big standards organization. Yes,
correct.
Absolutely. Just this week we put out in the U.S. a national survey called the Student Data Privacy Report, and it was the first ever on privacy practices. And some shocking things like, at least in the U.S., 73% of the people who say they're in charge of privacy in our school districts do not have in their job description that requirement. In fact, Yep. And almost 17% of the people who said they're in charge of privacy said they've gotten no professional development around privacy, how to handle privacy. And
And
yeah,
yeah, sorry, I interrupted. Yeah, continue with that.
well, just one other statistic, 25% of these leaders say that the professional development they've gotten, they had to pay for themselves. So, hopefully
Wow.
it has figured out this, but we have a real problem. And you started immediately to talk about the problem we have with vendors, and that does get a lot of attention, and it's appropriately so. But there's also challenges when we ask these folks about employees and how they are either prepared or handling student data. So it isn't just a vendor problem. There is a vendor problem, but you have to also start in your own school system.
It all begins at home,
Yeah,
100%. And the professional learning piece is absolutely paramount. I just came back from a province wide summit in New Brunswick, and they have the moniker being the first province, equivalent to state, to initiate a province wide focus on AI. So this was a second session with stakeholders from across the province, and I was an invited guest, and it was fascinating to see the alignment that they have between the province and the school districts. And certainly, when you look at standards, students' AI standards, I listened to the UNESCO podcast recently on student standards around AI, and it was outstanding. There's a lot of great work that's been done by CoSN. You came out with some recent reports. Why don't we talk about a couple of reports you just put out that we shared in the Mindshare report recently?
yeah. Well, let me first start with AI. And a year ago, when at our last conference that you were at in Miami, we released a maturity model for school systems to think more holistically around AI. And this past fall, we upgraded and expanded it to include a module around AI literacy that you were just talking about in the curriculum aspects. Well, we're taking that and trying to figure out how we expand that knowledge of that maturity model. And we are partnering with providing online and face-to-face professional development. So that's some of the exciting things. We're also in the area of student data privacy. As I said last week, we came out with that new report that you can find on our website under cosin.org/privacy. And 2 weeks ago, we partnered with the nonprofit, the Center for Internet Security. They provide a lot of free and low-cost services to school districts in the United States around cybersecurity. And they're funded by the federal government, so we can talk about a little bit about that too, but because they just lost that funding. But they found that since last summer, 82% of school districts of those who get their services had a cyber attack, a cyber threat.
What was
And
that number again? It sounds huge. 82%?
2% of those who sign up for these services have
Right.
had that. In fact, that represents 9,300 incidents in K-12.
Incredible.
Yeah, so I assume that is not bounded by the Canadian-U.S. border, and
No.
so school districts everywhere are at risk. They're so undermanned and understaffed, and they, have so few resources to really address what the cyber criminals are doing. And as this report points out, it certainly has an impact, when the instructional days are shut down, but it also has impact, obviously, on payroll. It has impact
Right.
on the student buses. It has impact on the cafeteria plan because everything runs on the network. The HVAC system, the doors, locks, windows, all run on the network. And
It's
so, and
it's paralyzing. right?
It
It is.
really is, and like even preschool and before school and after school activities all are influenced when these cyber attacks happen. And of course, you know, many school districts are now paying the ransom, and that only
Right.
encourages the
Yeah. And unfortunately, education is considered the low hanging fruit for these
right.
cyber attackers, isn't it?
Yeah, we are unfortunately the number one targeted sector for ransomware attack.
Hmm.
It's hard to believe, but there's an awful lot of data that school districts have. They have obviously birth dates of students that are very valuable to criminals. They're often the largest employer in a community, or one of the largest. So they have lots of employee data.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's cool that you've got an AI playground
we
uh, that's
have a
part of.
couple of them.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Talk to me about how AI is making its way into education. And, we've got a number of use cases that we launched through C21 Canada. It'd be wonderful to do some collaboration. And as we've done in the past, and you've been a great partner, we've been great neighbors. CoSN's reports are embraced by Canadian school districts in a big way. And you've come up here in the past and done site visits to Toronto. I think we need to do more together, and because we are great neighbors.
We totally agree, and I can personally say we've always believed that we are the North American ed tech leadership organization,
Right,
and so we very much want to do that and more. And in fact, I'll give you a little sneak preview that we've done for 12 years now a national survey in the United
right.
States. We are coming to Canada so that we can start seeing what's happening in Canada, and we can compare
Brilliant.
if there are similarities or differences. I just stay tuned. I know I've whispered that in your ear before, but it's
Well,
happening. It'll be
we're
happening.
happy to do our part to support you in accomplishing that goal. And I'm just looking, slowly scrolling through the agenda, and it's a really rich content you've got. And you've got a CTO forum as well that's very popular. Talk to me about that. And we've had, leaders, CIOs like Peter Singh from Toronto District School Board, who's come down to
He's
CoSN
coming.
and others. He'll be at this one.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. What excites you about AI?
Well, I think what excites me is the ability to make the jobs that we do better. So, um, whether it's, there's a lot of challenge with recruiting and retaining, whether it's teachers or administrators today. And a lot of that is because there's a lot of stress, both preparing, for teachers, the preparing for their lessons, grading, for communicating with parents. So how can we take off some of that burden off of teachers or principals, helping them, there's a lot better way that we can do some of the tasks, things like scheduling. Scheduling of classes is really a burden. Likewise, keep doing bus schedules. There's plenty of administrative sorts of things, and then just within the classroom, how do we prepare students to really think about, to be prepared for the world that's going to have a whole lot of AI in it.
Fascinating. If you're just joining us, we've got quite a number of live guests today online here. Thank you for joining us. My name is Robert Martellacci, Mindshare Learning Report, and we've got the legend Keith Krueger, 30 years plus with CoSN as the CEO. They're hosting an incredible conference, CoSN 2025. I love the notion of the human aspect that you infuse in it, and the closing keynote is so compelling as well around building trust. It's often been said that innovation moves at the speed of trust. And how important is that today in education as ed techs are trying to partner and, given the sensitivities around the major breach that happened, talk to me, give me some advice for ed techs and how they should look at approaching school districts and partnerships. I mentioned, we're forging partnership with a school district and hosting our conference. Off air, I mentioned it, and the province of New Brunswick is engaging with us to support them. So we've seen a real embracing of public-private partnerships, and timing's everything, isn't it? In this moment in time that we're in unprecedented times, which I will maybe ask you a question or two around that. But thoughts on the public-private partnerships and how ed techs need to approach it?
Well, first of all, I'll talk a little broader. You mentioned
Yeah.
the word trust, and I think that is a really important word. And when we've taken delegations all around the world, and places that I think the education system works better is where there is trust that parents believe that the educators are doing the best for them, that policymakers believe in. We have some real challenges, particularly in the US, around trust. And there tends to be a lot of pointing of fingers and saying, bad things. And sometimes we're saying that even about our neighbors, which I think is problematic. But, how do we restore that trust? And certainly you asked specifically about how do ed tech developers and providers provide value. And I think one of the first ways to do that is to really understand what problems that educators are trying to solve. And so
Right.
as opposed to the typical ed tech startup that says I've seen a problem and I have the answer, it's
Right.
often, and it worked for my child's elementary school. I think sitting down with teachers and school leaders and saying, what are the real challenges that you're trying to solve? And we do an annual report on driving K-12 innovation. And the reason I like that is it starts with what hurdles are we trying to overcome?
Brilliant.
What are the top accelerators that are changing the world? And only last and third do we look at what the technology is. Too often our audience starts with the technology, not with the hurdles that we're trying to overcome.
And the notion of listening skills and being open to understanding and doing your homework. The advice I give to ed techs is go on the website, read their school district improvement plan. The strategic plan is there, and you'll understand what the priorities are. Be
exactly
prepared. Do your homework, as one of my professors used to say. And he would say, Dr. Bryce Taylor sadly passed, but he would say, and your homework doesn't end when you graduate from school, because you will be doing homework all your life. And it's a way of doing homework as you prepare for your meetings when you're going in to meet with a district or a school. Speaking of schools, I love the notion of site visits, and I know you're a big fan of that.
Yes.
We, from our summit, and you were there, and thank you for speaking at our event. And the architects, there was interest in doing a site visit to Denmark. So we are planning a 5-day tour of all their building designs that culminates with the Lego Innovation Complex, which Zebra Architects designed. So pretty cool. I hope you can join us, because it will be after CoSN, so you deserve a break to Denmark.
Great.
Yes. Keith Krueger, what is going on with your country? What is going on with education? I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I got a large number of people are on here probably wondering what I'm going to ask you, whether I'm going to ask you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, what is the state of education and what are the opportunities? Being the positive people, growth mindset, innovators mindset, it's an opportunity to reimagine, like never before, what education is going to be like in the future.
I'm trying to think of a positive way to say, other than I think many of us in the United States are as puzzled by the crazy conversations and talks that
Right.
sometimes are happening, especially as they impact on Canada. And so, on a personal basis, I would say I'm not sure that I completely understand what's going on.
Right.
We obviously have to, some of that's above my pay grade, but
Well
I,
said.
I
Well
will
said.
I will say that there is a lot of discussion, as you're perhaps hearing, about what the role of the federal government is around education in the United States. It's interesting if, in Canada has a much cleaner kind of, you don't have a federal ministry of
Right.
education, it's provincial, and that so it's interesting in that there will be a de-emphasis on sort of the work of the U.S. Department of Education.
Hmm.
For some of us, I think that's challenging, in that, not that actually education is a local and state responsibility, and so
Right.
really what the federal U.S. Department of Education has provided are things like, in the area of technology, the Office of Education Technology Policy, and kind of a national plan, which really wasn't a plan, it was a vision document, a lot of resources on AI and cybersecurity. So those things are a loss, as they've already shut down that office.
Hmm.
Um, but it, as you said, I guess the rather than saying the half empty, the half full is what will the future look like? We've
Right.
seen a decimation of the research aspects that have happened for many years at our national level, federal level. So what's going to replace that? Because I think we need policymakers, parents, educators need data to make decisions. And if you're going to destroy the systems
Right.
that you've had, what replaces that? So I don't know yet what replaces that, but
Right.
perhaps we can look north to see how things are done
Yeah,
there.
we are, decentralized, and it's not a bad thing. In the past, I wondered if having a national department would be an asset. But what I admire about the uniqueness of each of the provinces and the three territories is that they're all at a different place and they pull each other along.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of decentralization and the collaboration that we nurture with C21. And
Yeah.
we've got a national AI use case project that we're partnered with Dell Technologies, and we're in phase 2. And we got some incredible use cases that have emerged on AI that are really guiding points for districts wanting to go down that path, because everyone's at a different place. Some haven't even started.
Yeah. And I think, as you and I were talking before the call, that this is the opportunity for organizations like
Right.
ours to step up into it
Right.
when there's a void for things.
Yeah.
And we certainly are busy trying to understand what are the key needs, and help provide resources, and learn from each other. So what are the similarities of what's happening in Canada and the United States, and what
Right.
are the differences? And hopefully we can all learn faster by working together.
Well said, Keith Krueger. I know it's a busy time for you as the clock winds down to your conference upcoming in a
One
week,
week.
or 1 week to go. Um, Final thoughts before we wrap this up.
No, just I want to thank you for your long time leadership and collaboration, and we will continue to figure out ways to reach hands across the border, even if our policymakers can't.
With that, grateful for your time again, Keith Krueger, CoSN CEO. My name is Robert Martellacci of the MindShare Learning Report. Be sure to get out to CoSN if you're able. If you haven't registered in Seattle, and it's upcoming March 31st to April 2nd. It's one of the best conferences that I attend annually. Great collaboration, great insights from leaders that you would never connect with in one conference from across the spectrum, whether it's a CIO, a tech director, or a superintendent. With that, be sure to check out www.mindshare Learning. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.